Hello everybody, welcome back to Tavian's World of Reptiles. I hope you are all doing well and taking care of yourselves. I know it has been a long time coming, but we are finally getting to part 2 of our 5 families of snake series that I had mentioned doing. Now I know that it's taking a little while, but somebody in the comments of the first video that I posted talking about that series said not to take things too seriously, to just kind of let it flow as it happens, and try not to put too much pressure on getting it done. So I've kind of just been allowing that to happen for myself. And as of recently, I've been doing a lot of videos and I've been having a lot of inspirations for other things, so I haven't really been focused on this one. But now I am back and ready to focus on this series again, and I hope you guys are ready for it. Now, as you can see, I do have Iro, my spider ball python, joining us today. I would have loved to have a few other of my pythons actually featuring in this video. However, most of them are in shed, with the exception of Antiope, who was just not in the mood to come out today. Now, the Pythonidae species, being non-native to North and South America, is considered an Old World species, and they are typically found around the Asia, Africa, and Australian areas. And they are a large family of non-venomous snakes, much like the boas mentioned in the last video of this series. And amongst the ranks are some of the largest snakes in the world, including the African rock python, the olive python, and the all too well known reticulated python. Now, the word python refers to both the family Pythonidae as well as a genus that lands within that family called python. So just keep that in mind as we go in through the next part of this video. Now, speaking of genera within the Pythonidae family, I believe there are approximately 8 different genera in that family, and I'm going to attempt to try to talk about each one of those and the snakes that fall within those genera. Now, of course, I'm not very good at actually pronouncing these things, so I'm going to do my best, but of course I'm also going to go ahead and put it on the screen so that you have a better idea of what I'm actually trying to say. Also, I have notes over here, so if you see me looking off to the side, it's because I have notes. My brain is way too scattered to try to remember all this at once, while also trying to be in front of the camera and not being all nervous about that. So if I'm looking off to the side, it is because I'm looking at my notes. Now, let's start talking about some of the genera within this family. First one we're going to talk about is the Morelia genus. Within this family falls the Boelen's python, rough-scaled pythons, carpet pythons, diamond pythons, green tree pythons, and more. Next, we have the Antarcia and Antarcia. Not sure I'm saying that right, but within this genus falls the children's pythons, spotted pythons, pygmies pythons, and Stimson pythons. We also have the Apodora, which I believe just has the Papuan python in it. Then we have Aspiditis, Anyway, and that has the blackhead python as well as the woma python. Both are really fantastic snakes, and I hope to own a woma one day. Next, we have the Liasis. Now, within this family is the brown water python, olive pythons, Macklot's pythons, as well as Savu pythons. Next, we have the Bothrocalis. I'm not sure. Anyway, in this genus we have water pythons, ringed pythons, and the various white-lipped pythons. Now, I'm going to pause here because I said approximately 8. This is where I say approximately 8 because there are multiple different sources that I've seen that said that the white-lipped pythons actually fall within their own genus of Leiopythons, and I'm not sure, and there's some that says they actually fall underneath this Bothrocalis genus. And so I'm not 100% sure exactly if there are 2 different genuses there, but if that's the case, that makes it approximately 8. And of course, last but not least, we have that python genus that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. Many of the more commonly known pythons in the hobby actually fall within this genus. That includes things like the Burmese python, short-tailed pythons, royal pythons, or ball pythons as we call them in America, and reticulated pythons, and so many more. When it comes to characteristics of these snakes, they are all over the board. They range from little 2.5 foot pygmy pythons to 4 to 5 foot ball pythons and, blood pythons, all the way to like those good old 12+ foot long reticulated pythons. So if there's anybody out there interested in getting a python, you can guarantee that there is absolutely a size that it works perfectly for you. Now there are also tree-dwelling pythons, ground-dwelling pythons, and massively really good swimming pythons. So if you're looking for a snake with certain personalities, you really just need to do your research and find out which kind of active python you're looking for. There are some that are much more on the ground, doesn't quite move as much like ball pythons here. And then of course there are pythons that swoop through the trees like there's nobody's business and get things done like green tree pythons. So you just got to do your research and find out which python will work perfectly for your lifestyle. Now, depending on their habitat and their need to camouflage, their colors and patterns are all over the board. From the basic, most solid of brown that just kind of blends into the ground to really crazy patterns to bright greens like that of the green tree pythons. Also, most pythons are known for having heat pits. Of course, that does not mean that they all do. Pythons that are known for hunting prey that are also cold-blooded tend to lack those heat pits as they have no requirement for them. Now, just like boas, this species also has rear-facing fangs so that when they grab hold of their prey, they're able to pull it in tight, wrap it up, and when it comes time for feeding, those teeth will help pull that prey down into their mouth, down their throat, and into their stomachs. Also, like boas, these beautiful creatures have the remnants of pelvic bones, as well as something called spurs, which is all that is left of the once upon a legs that their ancestors used to have. Now, unlike boas, these creatures are oviparous, and I really hope I said that word correctly. Essentially, that means that instead of giving birth to live snakes, much like boas do, they actually lay clutches of eggs. And this means that they have a little bit more parenting involved when it comes to taking care of their young, as instead of being able to move around with their babies inside of them like boas do, they have to sit and parent their eggs, keep them warm and keep them safe. So they have a little bit more parenting when it comes to their offspring than that of boas. And if given proper care, this species can live in a long time, all the way up to 30 years, maybe even a little past that. There have been a few records of older snakes past 30, not very many, but when kept in captivity, these beautiful creatures thrive for a very long time, a lot longer than their wild brethren. Now, I don't know how it happened, but somehow my collection is very boa heavy. However, I do really appreciate pythons. I appreciate how much more active they are than most boa species, as most boa species tend to get pretty heavy bodied and then they slow down, and so they're not quite as active as much, with the exception, of course, of things like tree boas or things like Brazilian rainbow boas that tend to be, both terrestrial as well as arboreal. But yes, I have just genuinely loved taking care of pythons. I love being able to watch them move around their enclosures, and just they are so much more curious than any other snake that I've really had to deal with. I mean, with the exception of colubrids, which I'm quickly learning they are also very curious snakes, which I'll talk about in that video when the time comes. But I really just love pythons. If you're looking for a snake that just kind of shows you its intelligence, because pythons are really intelligent, all snakes are, but pythons really get to show you just how intelligent they are. You can almost see them thinking about their routes when they're moving around. You can almost see their brain working as they try to figure out this world around them. They're really just fantastic creatures. So if you're really thinking about getting into snakes, I really suggest looking into the various different pythons that are out there. I know typically you're going to get told to look into ball pythons as a beginner species, but there are various other species of python out there that I believe would make a really great beginner snake. So just do some research, look around, maybe go back and through some of the genuses that I mentioned and look at some of the snakes that I've already mentioned under that, or look at more into those genuses and find out exactly all the species that fall in them and see if there's one out there that works just for you. So you guys take care. I don't want to keep going on. You take care. You love yourselves. You love your reptiles. You love your loved ones. And you guys keep spreading those herbs.